Come closer, let's talk. Was BookCon actually worth it? If you watched my vlog last week about BookCon, then you know I promised to do a Was BookCon Worth It video where I talk about, like, was it actually worth it? And we're about to find out. If you are interested in BookCon and being an exhibitor at BookCon and selling your books there, but you're not sure if it's gonna actually pan out and be a smart decision, this video is for you. We're gonna talk about 3 different categories. We're gonna focus on sales, and then on networking, and then on friends at BookCon, and we're gonna decide if it's worth it based on those 3 things separately, and then I'm gonna merge them all together and give you my decision on if it's worth it at the end. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and also stay tuned until the end because I'm gonna do my top 10 tips for exhibitors if you do decide to go. And then I will just say that this is gonna be really big picture, and then Mandy on her channel is going to run over the actual numbers. So if you're interested in that, definitely go to her channel and watch for the numbers, and I will link that below. I think I will do a video on my exact numbers as well, but I'm gonna offer that to my patrons over on Patreon, which I will link below. If you're interested, go check that out. I'll probably try to post that the same day as this video when this goes up. So if you're interested in more exact numbers, go check out my Patreon video club to watch that. Before I get into categories, I just want to show you my new shirt that I got also on my way home from BookCon at the store in the airport. Book nerd. I really love my writerly shirts. I'm very excited about them. Okay, anyway, back to the video. The first category is sales. So I'm gonna bring up my math here. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at all my writing in the numbers. So just so you guys know, full transparency, you have to pay to have a booth at BookCon. There are different prices depending on where your booth is, like corner booths cost more. And if you're in the middle, like by one of the big publishers, then those booths were going for like $20,000. So I was like, Mandy, we should get this booth right here. It's right in the middle of everything. She's like, yeah, did you look at the price? To get the prices, I do think you have to email and contact them and kind of apply and all that. But basically, for our booth that Mandy and I got, we paid, I think it was just under $2,000. So when we split that evenly, it was $950 each. So that's the booth alone. And then you have to factor in actually buying the books. So it depends, of course, on the book and like what the printing cost is, but you can get author copies for almost at cost, which actually means that when you sell books in person, like signed copies, you can make a lot more royalties than you can selling them online, which is awesome. It's not great for your stats because they're not recorded as books sold, but I've sold a lot of books that way and it's really fun. So roughly $4 to $5 per book plus shipping costs, so that's how much it costs per book. And then, of course, there's flying or transportation in general, like the Ubers, and if you're driving in, and the hotel to stay somewhere, unless you have a friend to stay with. So those are kind of the 4 factors. Oh, and the 5th factor I would say is food, because you kind of want to eat while you're there. And so let's just like ignore the transportation, ignore the hotel, and ignore the food, because those are the things that you would do on a regular trip. And let's just look at the booth plus the book purchases, okay? Let's say for the sake of easy math that it's about $4 per book, and then it rounds up to $5 with shipping, so you're spending approximately $5 a book. And let's say, again, for easy math, that you're gonna order 100 books, so that's $500, and then plus the $950 for a booth. If you're sharing it, you have to share it to get that price. So that works out to be, let's just round it up to $1,500. And if you want to bring more books, like maybe you want to bring 200 books or somewhere in between, you know, it could be like more like $2,000. So let's just say, for the sake of simple math, that you're spending between $1,500 to $2,000 just for the booth and the books, not including any marketing material like your banner or flyers or printing costs, and not including the hotel or the flying or the food. Let's do the math together. Are you ready for this? Let's say that you have to sell them high enough, like at a price where you make back $10. So if I'm paying $5 per book, then I would have to sell them at least $15 to make $10 back per book. That means, if I'm doing the math right, that to pay for that higher end cost for spending $2,000, I would need to sell 200 books just to break even, okay? So I'm just gonna let you know right now, this is just my general numbers, is that I came home with having gotten rid of, and I say gotten rid of, not sold, for a reason, bear with me, but I came back with 76 books less than what I left with, which means not that I sold 76 books, because I think 8 of them were giveaways. So actually I gave away some books and then I sold 68 books total. Let's just pause for the crickets. Yeah. When it comes to sales alone, it is not looking good, my friends. That is nowhere close to selling 200 books. Now, granted, if I had gone on the cheaper route, bought less books, so say I bring only 100 books, so I spend roughly $1,500, then that means I only have to sell 150 books to break even. But wait, I don't even have 150 books to sell. So what some authors will do, and what I did see done, is that some authors will make the books more expensive and they'll sell them for $20, and then they're making $15 per sale. As much as that would be amazing for actually making my money back, I just didn't feel right about it. I felt like that was way overcharging and overpricing. I've done it before, and people, you know, when they're supporting you, they're happy to help you, and so that's awesome, but I just didn't feel good about it, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So even if I was to raise it by a couple bucks, that could probably help a lot. But again, it's that place where it's just like, I don't want to overcharge. I just want to give people my book. So I'm happy to break even. But as you can tell from the math that I just went over, breaking even is even difficult. So there's that. A couple other factors that could weigh in is if you have books like, for example, my children's book, The Confident Corgi, which did really, really well at BookCon this year. This was, I think, my bestseller. Actually, I think Evelyn's number sold the best, but this book sold surprisingly well. This book like drew people in. All the corgi lovers and dog lovers were like, what is this book? So this book is a little cheaper to print because it's so skinny. So I think it's like $3 to print, but then of course, because it's so little, I didn't feel comfortable selling it for 15, so I sold it for 10, I think, if I remember right. I sold a bunch, but I didn't make as much back. So all these things to keep in mind. So to summarize, if you look at sales alone, it's not looking good, guys. It's really not looking good. If you came into it with some book stock that you already had, that would be a plus, because now you're just getting rid of a bunch of stock that you already have. Although, of course, you did at some point purchase that, so that kind of should be factored in. And then, of course, there's the fact that you could put them for higher prices and possibly break even, especially if you order less books. But it's just not looking good. This is just the honest numbers. And again, over on Patreon, I will actually run through the specific numbers. I haven't done it yet, so I'm a little nervous, but I just wanted to give you guys a general idea here, and of course you can go watch Mandy's video as well, because she's going to run through her numbers too. The second category that I want to talk about is networking, and this is like a whole different ball game, because you don't come out of BookCon knowing for sure numbers, but I do have some ideas and I'm very excited about them. So let me just rewind, because I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm very excited about the networking aspect and kind of describe to you what happened. Before I go into my specific stories, I should mention some really generic stuff, such as an email sign up and handing out business cards. So both of those things are going to grow your following and grow your reach, and so you are automatically connecting with people that you probably would have never run into otherwise, just by having business cards available for them to take and an email sign up that they can, you know, sign up for to connect with you and get your monthly emails. But you can also network with other vendors. So not just the people coming through to buy, but the people who are also there selling. You can make amazing connections with other indie authors who maybe you can like combine your efforts for marketing together in the future and do like emails, swaps, and things like that. But you can also talk to companies, like for example, a book box. I had the opportunity to talk to 3 different book boxes. I talked to the Fae Crate, the Bookworm box, and the Once Upon a Book Club box, and they are all 3 of them these amazing subscription boxes that send out monthly boxes that include a book in them. So first of all, I applied to all of them just to see if it happened to be a good fit, if my book might be a good fit for them for their box, because typically a book box likes to put out new books, especially new releases, and The Stolen Kingdom comes out in August, so it's only 3 months away now, I believe, less than 3 months away. So it was just like the perfect fit, or it could be, we'll see, for any of these boxes, because they like the same genre, they like YA. Yeah, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but that got it into my head that I could also apply to other book boxes. But I think that it's really cool because I have actually met the people at these book boxes, and I can say, hey, I met you at BookCon, and we can just connect based on that, and that's amazing networking opportunities. I know that one of the boxes for sure, the Bookworm box, said that they are going to put all of my flyers for The Stolen Kingdom in their box for August. So that is maybe 2,000 people who are going to be hearing about The Stolen Kingdom just because of the connection that I made at BookCon. So obviously not all 2,000 people are gonna buy them, but if even half or even a quarter of the people who get that book box think that that looks like an interesting book, which I hope that they will, and they decide to buy it, then that could be 500 sales right there. That's huge, you guys, and I don't know if it'll work out, but if my book, if I happen to submitted it in time to be actually considered for a book box and it happens to work out, that would be just incredible, because again, that could be thousands of sales, and of course they'd be at wholesale if the book box is buying them, so it's not really at a profit to me, but it's getting the word out there, and that in itself is amazing. So anyway, I am going to have to say that for the networking aspect, just that alone, BookCon is highly worth it, and I thought it was amazing when it came to networking. And then that leads to the third category, which is friends. And of course, you guys, you saw my BookCon vlog. If you didn't, you should. I'll link it below. But I was able to just hang out with so many internet friends. Like, that's what they are. Friends that I met on the internet in like all the cases except for like one person, which was Brittany Wang, my CP, who I met in real life 10 years ago in a whole different thing. But everyone else is an internet friend who I originally met online, and some of them I've had the chance to meet in person before this, like at the Wander Writers Retreat. They originated as internet friends, and they are all amazing. And it sounds weird to call them that, but internet friends, at least for me right now, understand the writing journey way more than anybody in my day-to-day life, and they mean so much to me. And so being able to see them in real life, it sounds so weird to say it that way, there's got to be a better way to say it, but like seeing them in person, there you go, just being able to hang out with people that I've had such good conversations with, and they've been so supportive and just been with me along on my journey. You guys, that means more than I can say. I just don't even have the right words to say how cool it was to hang out with these people who mean so much to me. I'm getting like teary-eyed right now. If the other 2 factors didn't come into play at all, I would still go to BookCon, like just as an attendee, just to hang out with all these amazing people. That in and of itself would be worth it to me. And you know, buying cool swag like that bag and this shirt and things like that. No, I'm kidding. Just the people alone and meeting internet friends, writing friends in real life is so worth it to me. So, you know, if you are brand new to the writing community, maybe that won't quite play as much of a role, but if you've been around the writing community for a while and you've gotten to know writing friends and you know other people who are going to BookCon, then I definitely think that it's worth it just to hang out with them. And that brings me to my 10 tips, because my very first tip, you guys, is to make time for the friends. I just felt so overwhelmed in the whole, you know, 2-day experience with, you know, the booth and just like making sure that I was open to talk to strangers and sell my books, that I just wish I'd had more time set aside to talk to friends like before and after. Like, not that I didn't, because I definitely did, but going into it next year, I would plan more time for them, like even more than I already have, and just plan maybe like to come a day early and just hang out with them, and maybe plan like more events before and after, and just be really strategic about it so that there's no time wasted, because friends are amazing. And that's my first tip. My second tip is to assume everything will take twice as long as you expect. I say that because it took us 3 hours to unload, and I think also 3 hours to pack back up again. And we thought it would take like 20 minutes. Yeah. My third tip is to buy or rent a really big dolly. So those like Home Depot ones that can carry like 20 books at a time. Just speaking from experience, you don't want to make 20 trips. One trip is always better, and again, that will save you time, which we talked about. My fourth tip is to read all the rules ahead of time. Not to say that I didn't, but there were certain ones like parking that I did not pay as much attention to, and so we could not figure out where to park, and we wasted a lot of time figuring that out. So reading everything ahead of time, especially things like parking. Oh, and before I move on, I will say also reading all the fine print, because they also tried to charge us for things like carpet and chairs and tables, and that was like an extra $800 something to actually have stuff in the booth. So you paid for the booth, but it didn't come with anything. So, you know, we didn't know that going into it. We had to we read the fine print and we found out. So just know that going into it. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, if you can bring stuff, awesome. If you can't, you might need to factor in that extra expense, which is unfortunate. My fifth tip is to stay as close to the Javits Center as you can. Hotels are expensive, so I totally get that, but we had a hotel that was like a 20-minute walk. I would say that's actually not bad. It'll just save you time and blisters if you can stay closer, so just throwing that out there. My sixth tip is to bring less books, and of course, you've been here, you've watched the video, I think you know why. I think that obviously we brought too many books, so that's why I have some fun overstock on my website. If you're interested, you should go check it out. I have signed books for a super cheap discount for a limited time only, and then I'll bring them back up to more regular price. But if you bring less books, you don't run the risk of having too many and having to figure out how to bring them home. So that's always nice. My seventh tip is to network as much as possible. Again, I think that you guys probably know why, because you watched the video. And my eighth tip is that there's really no need to run a sale, because we ran a sale on Sunday thinking that, you know, this will help us sell more books. But actually we found that a lot of the people who had come to check out the book on Saturday came to buy it on Sunday, so they would have bought it at the price that we had Saturday anyway. So that sale didn't really make much of a difference. My ninth tip is to bring food and water. And I will even go a step further and say, consider what kind of food you can bring that you don't have to touch with your hands, because we brought Lunchables, which you have to like make with your hands, and finger food, like this, like everything was like you had to grab it with your hands, and you're shaking people's hands, so that's just like inviting a sickness into your life. That leads to my 10th and final tip, which is to bring hand sanitizer and maybe something like Zicam, which is amazing for preventing colds, so you can just take it every day, which is what I did at least one day, just kind of taking preventative measures to keep yourself from getting sick. Okay, so let's summarize. When it comes to number 1, sales, it is not worth it to do BookCon. When it comes to number 2, networking, it is very worth it to do BookCon. And when it comes to number 3, which is friends, I also think it's very, very worth it to do BookCon. So if you merge all of those things together, I'm struggling because I do think having a return on investment, having ROI, is extremely important when it comes to the author business. But I would say that if I can tweak some things, make some changes to pricing and how many books I order and maybe some sales that I run and other things like that, I do think it might still be worth it. So I am probably at around 80% sure that I want to do BookCon again next year. I'll be very curious to see what Mandy says. I'm going to link her video below as soon as it goes live, so make sure you check it out as soon as it's live, obviously. And she will tell you her decision on if BookCon was worth it. If you guys want to chat about BookCon or about being an exhibitor, just pop your questions below in the comments and I will try to answer them. I'm a little bit slow on answering YouTube comments, but I always try to make sure I get to them eventually. And then if you do want to know my exact numbers, like how much I spent total, how much I made total, how many books I brought and sold, then definitely check out my Patreon page because I'm going to do a video on that either right when this one goes up or shortly after. Let me bring you over to my bookshelf because I just want to show you guys really quick. I have a limited number of the Confident Corgi left. These sold really well during BookCon. Again, I don't know why. It's super fun though. And then I also have 2 shelves exactly full of Evelyn's number and Pearl's number, and then I left at Mandy's house How Your Book Sells Itself. I didn't have enough room in my suitcase, so she has all my copies of this left over, and all of these are on my website for sale for overstock for a limited time. I made them at a super discounted price, and then eventually I do need to lift them back up to normal price. So go get your copy now if you want any of these. I'll put the link below for a signed copy if you're interested in that and if you want to support an indie author and also get a great book while you do so. One last thing, don't go anywhere. This is what I brought to BookCon, is these beautiful flyers. And I kept a little handful because I want to go to like coffee shops and Barnes & Noble and like pin them up on like cork boards and stuff like that. So I did keep a little handful, but on the back of them is the synopsis of the story and of course all the links to connect with me, and then a link to read a sneak peek and pre-order. So you guys already know that I have pre-orders available. If you haven't pre-ordered, definitely do that because that would be amazing. But specifically I put read a sneak peek because I put the first 2 chapters of The Stolen Kingdom up on my website for everybody to read. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today. I shared it with my patrons already. I shared it with everyone at BookCon, obviously, when they got these flyers. But now I'm telling you, and I just wanted to share in case you want to go read the first 2 chapters and find out what happens. Yeah, I will link the chapters below. Just click the link below to read the first 2 chapters of The Stolen Kingdom. I hope you like it. I'm very nervous because it's not done yet. It's still being edited, so please don't judge too harshly. But I just wanted to share because I'm really excited about it. So I hope you guys like it, enjoy. Go check out the signed books as well. Don't forget about that. And that's all I have for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. And of course, subscribe. Obviously, if you haven't already, because that'd be awesome and it supports my channel and I'll like you a lot. And yeah, I hope you have an awesome day and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!